10 deadliest accidents in the world. Accidents are an unfortunate and often tragic reality of our world. Despite advancements in technology and safety measures, many devastating accidents throughout history have resulted in significant loss of life. Let's take a look at the top deadliest accidents in the world. Chernobyl catastrophe. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster is widely regarded as the worst nuclear accident in history. A reactor at the plant exploded on April 26, 1986, releasing massive amounts of radioactive material into the environment. The explosion and subsequent fires caused the deaths of 2 plant workers and 28 rescue workers within the first few weeks. The disaster also led to long-term health effects on the surrounding population, with an estimated 4,000 deaths attributed to the accident. Design flaws, operator error, and inadequate safety protocols caused the accident. Bhopal gas disaster. The Bhopal gas tragedy occurred in December 1984, when a pesticide plant in Bhopal, India, owned by Union Carbide, released a cloud of toxic gas. The gas leak caused the immediate deaths of 3,000 people and long-term health effects for over 500,000 people. The exact death toll from the disaster is still debated, but is estimated to be between 15,000 and 20,000 people. Tangshan earthquake. The Tangshan earthquake occurred on July 28, 1976 in Tangshan, China. It had a magnitude of 7.8 on the Richter scale and lasted 23 seconds. The quake resulted in the deaths of over 240,000 people and caused significant damage to the city's infrastructure. The Chinese government was slow to respond to the disaster, and it wasn't until several hours later that the news of the earthquake began to spread. The movement of the Eurasian plate and the Pacific plate caused the quake. It is considered one of the deadliest earthquakes in modern history and was a significant turning point in China's history. The Tangshan earthquake has since become a symbol of China's resilience and ability to rebuild in the face of disaster. Today, Tangshan is a thriving city, and many of its residents have rebuilt their lives after the tragedy. Hurricane Katrina. The Gulf Coast of the United States was devastated, and many lives were lost as Hurricane Katrina landed on August 29, 2005. The hurricane landed in Louisiana and caused severe flooding in New Orleans and the surrounding areas. The failure of levees and floodwalls led to significant damage and loss of life, and the federal government's response was widely criticized for being slow and inadequate. The disaster highlighted issues of race and poverty in the United States and resulted in significant changes to emergency management policies and procedures. Despite the challenges, the people of New Orleans and the Gulf Coast have shown remarkable resilience in adversity. The recovery effort has led to significant progress in rebuilding and revitalizing the region. Hurricane Katrina serves as a reminder of nature's strength and the significance of catastrophe planning and response. Titanic sinking. The sinking of the Titanic is a tragic event that occurred on April 15, 1912, during the ship's maiden voyage from Southampton, England to New York City. The Titanic, a British passenger liner, struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic Ocean and sank, resulting in the loss of 1,517 lives. The disaster was caused by a combination of factors, including a lack of sufficient lifeboats, inadequate safety procedures, and a ship's speed in icy waters. The Titanic was considered the largest, fastest, and most luxurious ship of its time, and its sinking resulted in significant changes in maritime safety regulations and practices. The story of the Titanic has been retold in books, films, and documentaries, and it continues to be a significant event in world history and a reminder of the dangers of human hubris and the importance of safety measures. Sampoong department store collapse. The collapse of the Sampoong department store in Seoul, South Korea on June 29, 1995 was one of the deadliest building collapses in modern history. A variety of structural faults, including the addition of extra stories to the building and the use of poor materials, contributed to the collapse. The disaster resulted in the deaths of over 500 people and injured thousands more. The failure of the Sampoong department store was a wake-up call for South Korea, leading to significant changes in building codes and safety regulations. The tragedy also highlighted corruption issues and lax enforcement of rules in the country. The legacy of the disaster is still felt today as South Korea continues to grapple with the consequences of the Sampoong collapse and work to ensure the safety of its citizens. The Sampoong department store tragedy serves as a painful reminder of the need for strong building codes and regulations, as well as the need for tight enforcement to avoid similar disasters in the future. Japan Airlines Flight 123 crash. Japan Airlines Flight 123 was a domestic passenger flight that crashed on August 12, 1985, killing 520 of the 524 people on board. The collision occurred when the rear pressure bulkhead of the Boeing 747 failed, causing rapid cabin decompression and damage to the aircraft's control systems. The pilots struggled to control the plane, eventually crashing into a mountain near Mount Osutaka. The crash remains the deadliest single aircraft disaster in history. The investigation revealed a series of maintenance and design errors that contributed to the failure of the pressure bulkhead. The crash significantly impacted aviation safety, leading to improvements in maintenance procedures and design standards. The victims' families continue to advocate for improvements in aviation safety and remember their loved ones who perished in the tragedy. The Japan Airlines Flight 123 crash is a tragic reminder of the importance of rigorous maintenance and safety standards in the aviation industry. Hurricane Mitch. Hurricane Mitch was a Category 5 hurricane that struck Central America in late October 1998, causing widespread destruction and loss of life. The cyclone brought heavy rains and flooding to Honduras, Nicaragua, and other countries in the region, resulting in over 11,000 deaths and significant damage to infrastructure and agriculture. The disaster was exacerbated by deforestation and other environmental issues, which contributed to landslides and soil erosion. The international community provided significant aid and support in the aftermath of the hurricane, and the disaster prompted increased attention to disaster preparedness and response issues in the region. Hurricane Mitch remains one of Central American history's deadliest and costliest natural disasters. Gulf War oil spill. The Gulf War oil leak was one of the greatest in history, taking place during the Gulf War between Iraq and a coalition of countries led by the United States in 1991. The spill occurred when Iraqi forces intentionally released oil from several tankers in the Persian Gulf, causing an estimated 240 to 460 million gallons of oil to spill into the water. The spill had significant environmental and economic impacts, damaging marine life and ecosystems and disrupting fishing and other industries in the region. The collapse was also a major humanitarian issue, as oil slicks covered the coastlines of several countries, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Iran, and affected the livelihoods of millions of people. The spill highlighted the need for improved environmental regulations and emergency response measures to prevent and address oil spills in the future. Air India Flight 182 bombing. Air India Flight 182 was a passenger flight destroyed by a bomb on June 23, 1985, en route from Montreal to London and then Delhi. The bombing killed all 329 passengers aboard, including 268 Canadians, making it the deadliest terrorist in Canadian history. Sikh extremists attacked in retaliation for the Indian government's military operation against militants in the Golden Temple in Amritsar. The investigation into the bombing was complex and involved multiple countries, and it took over a decade to bring the perpetrators to justice. The tragedy profoundly impacted the victims' families and led to increased scrutiny of airline security measures and the threat of terrorism. These are only a few of the deadliest mishaps in the course of history that highlight the need for continuous efforts to prevent similar tragedies and highlight the significance of safety precautions.